I've had this itch lately, an itch to play something crazy and bombastic and just full of adrenaline and satisfying combat with wacky scenes and moments. When I was a kid, looking back in hindsight, I think the genre of games that I played the most were what are now known as character action games. At the time, I would call them hack and slash. I think hack and slash has weirdly been relegated towards Diablo-style games now, but that's all pedantics. These were some of the first games that I really fell in love with completely. And I think the original ones to do that were the old God of War games, the PS2 God of War games. I think I actually played the second one first, and then I went back and played the first one, and then I played the PSP one, Chains of Olympus, and then I went back and replayed them all. The only one I haven't really played is Ghost of Sparta. Yes, I've actually played Ascension. So I've played all those, and I remember really loving them. As time progressed, anytime there was some kind of game that had like hack and slash style elements, I actually really gravitated towards them. I know they're not necessarily character action games, but the Dynasty Warriors games, I always loved playing those, just hacking and slashing through the enemies. It would go all the way up to Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance. I just loved that game. I think a playthrough is due for that one because it's just so crazy, and I love that all the memes and stuff are still around for it. Even to games like Anarchy Reigns for the PS3, I loved that one. I think that was an underrated one. And as time's going forward and as I'm growing up, I kind of realized these are the kind of games that I really want to play and I've just been itching for. There's not a whole lot of them around anymore. The only ones really is like Devil May Cry 5 and maybe Dragon's Dogma 2 coming out. So when looking for some to play, I've been looking on for indie titles, for independent games that kind of cover this vibe. Even if not indie, just smaller ones, new experiences, something that is unfamiliar or not found yet. And I really haven't found any. I think a popular one a lot of people mention is the game Assault Spy. I believe it came out like 5 years ago though, so it's not like that new, but that's one that I hear a lot of people love and talk about. No More Heroes 3 came out a couple of years ago at this point, and that was a really, I loved my time with it, even though, it's maybe not as fantastic as the original No More Heroes. It's better than 2 in my opinion though. So my primary console right now is the Switch. I've been looking on the Switch for independent games that are kind of like this or scratch that itch, and I really haven't found any. So I finally kind of bit the bullet and decided, hey, I've actually never played Devil May Cry. And I know I say I love this genre, but I've never played the creator of the genre, the GOAT, if you will. I remember hearing a friend talk about it a lot back in the day, and I always felt it was just like a bit too edgy for me. It was very clearly like just pure edgelord stuff, which is totally fine, and in hindsight I find it more endearing. But yeah, I've never played them. So I found that they're on the Switch, the first 3, and I decided to play them. And the thing that, just to do a small review, I've only beaten the first one at this point. They are so refreshing compared to kind of what kind of games have been like now recently. And there's been so many aspects of it that I've been like very surprised by. I'm surprised by the mission structure. I'm surprised by the kind of, I know it was supposed to be a Resident Evil game initially, so I'm kind of surprised at how much of those, like that design philosophy they use specifically for the environments and being like the mansion. You're kind of running around the mansion, you can backtrack and look for secret rooms and things like that. It's really cool and super surprising. Even though it's old, looks old, the cutscenes are horrible and the voice acting is not great and the camera is not fantastic, I'm loving it. It's just really scratching that itch. It's kind of making me fall in love with games again a little bit. I know that's kind of weird to say, but for me, single player games for a while have been kind of waning in my interest. And I've just been playing a lot of co-op stuff. And maybe that's my own fault. I don't have enough time, or I just don't sit down and play a lot of stuff. But yeah, it really gave me that thing that I've been kind of looking for a while. And you know what a big element of it is actually not the fact that it doesn't take itself too seriously, I think is huge. There's kind of a goofiness, a wink of, it's like, yeah, we know this is weird, but we're just having fun. Like you can feel it from the developers. You can feel they're just like having a good time, which I think is, not something you see too much lately, in my opinion. I think a lot of people are almost like, a lot of developers, it feels, are almost like nervous that their thing won't do good, so they almost like take it too seriously. A lot of independents, like, this is their dream thing, so they want to treat it with all this like reverence and whatever. it's kind of rare that you find these games, well, not rare, but there's typically not a spotlight on a lot of games that you can just see they just had fun making this. Like, they just made whatever they want and they just have fun, which is why I kind of like the Suda51 games so much. And I think they kind of have that energy that this series kind of started, really. But yeah, I'm having a really good time with it. We'll see. I know people hate 2, and 3 is a masterpiece apparently, so it'll be kind of fun going through those. I'd like to do 4 and 5, but we'll see how that goes. By then I'll be really invested in the storyline, perhaps, that I'll really seek them out. For me, I kind of actually want to go through the main character action games. So, at least for the Switch, I think Bayonetta would be a good place to go next. I would love to go through some of those other Grasshopper games. I think like weird ones like Killer is Dead. I also got to play the Nier games, and maybe even, what's the dragon one called? The dragon one. Maybe go through a whole bunch of the other Platinum games as well. Just have a good time. There's another huge element to these games that I've just loved, and it's this thought of they're pretty short, but like super replayable. And that kind of brings me back to a very specific type of game. It really reminds me of Chains of Olympus for the PSP. For whatever reason, that game was probably my most replayed game. Like, I beat it like 7 times or something weird, like within a couple months. And it was just one of those games that I'm like, yeah, I'll just replay it. And this game really kind of brings that feeling back for me, where I'm like, oh, this is one where it's pretty short. It's only like 5 hours, which I'm like, holy moly, that's awesome. But while you're playing, you're like, oh, I'm missing a lot. I could do better. Like, there's the ranking system and stuff. To have this concept of it's a short game that is highly replayable, I love that. I see that and I go, that's so nice and so refreshing. Isn't it weird that these older games are just, they feel so fresh now? Obviously, I know it's just because design trends and stuff, but like, it's actually really wonderful if you can be fine with the graphics and voice acting and things like cameras and stuff. If you can go back to old games you've never played before, it's really great. It's really great because they feel so different than what's going on, right now, than the games that are around. And it's special. It feels really nice, actually. I think what helps is my playthrough of the game has been very good and very satisfying. I say, like, when you're playing a game, sometimes things can just not go right. Maybe you had like a frustrating enemy encounter right off the bat. Maybe a puzzle really like hampered your progress and it again frustrated you. It can really sour a game experience. But if sometimes you have that really nice experience where things go right, when things work out, the game gets funner. And especially if you have like a moment where you maybe figure something out that perhaps was hard to figure out or special. Like, for instance, Don't Make Cry. I don't know if the shotgun is just something you can find randomly, but I just like hit a couple of barrels and I found a shotgun and I was like, oh, sick. Is this like a special thing? Did I just find something that is like an optional thing that was difficult to find? That's awesome. And the kind of little puzzles that were there, I'd hear some context clues and I'd be like, oh, I know what to do. And it just felt really good. So my just core experience with it has been good. And I think that's been really, really nice. If I were to look at another like goated game that I've just had a bad experience with lately, it's been Chrono Trigger. And I know that might be sad to hear, but I just haven't enjoyed my time on my current playthrough of Chrono Trigger that I'm playing for the first time. So I'm not in love with the game like everyone else kind of is. And that's just kind of like, that's just kind of something that can happen. It's sad to say, but like, the experience that you have on a first time playthrough can really shape this stuff. It just is what it is. So yeah, I'm excited to play the rest of the series. It's nice because most of my single player content recently has been a lot of JRPGs, which are like, 30 plus hour games and stuff. Like 30 is a small end thing, really. And to play something that is so tight and well designed and quick and impactful is just wonderful. Makes me happy.